Oh, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Barber Shop Sports Talk with me, Daryl Lane, your host as always. Fabulous weekend of NFL football, divisional round, great games, gonna get into that. Ben Goodman returns to come on the show, gonna talk a lot of football with Ben, a lot about the weekend. We're gonna talk about the Alabama-Georgia National Championship game. I'm going to lay into one of the losing coaches in the divisional round. You don't want to miss that because I got something for him. I'm going to give my surprise team in the NFL next year. Why Bill Belichick is the exact reason Nick Saban will never leave Alabama. Why Nick Saban is the GOAT, even though that's just obvious. But I'm going to have to explain that because there are some people that, and it's mind-blowing, that don't believe it. And I'm going to have to critique something Tony Romo said during the New England Patriots Tennessee Titans game on his CBS broadcast. But first, like I said, this weekend of NFL football has been unparalleled. It's been spectacular, surprising, unpredictable, unforgettable weekend of football that taught me so many things. The surprising. 3 teams no one believed could win actually won. The Jacksonville Jaguars with one Blake Bortles beat Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and the Pittsburgh Steelers in Heinz Field. The Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Foles, and we left the Eagles for dead after Carson Wentz got hurt, ended up beating the defending NFC champion Atlanta Falcons. And the Minnesota Vikings with Case Keenum beat the New Orleans Saints. And folks, let me tell you something about Case Keenum. Case Keenum isn't like Blake Bortles and Nick Foles. Case Keenum is a real player. And he will make some money this offseason. I was waiting for him to turn into a pumpkin the last game. He didn't. And man, that throw to Stephon Diggs, it was misjudged by the safety Williams. Just shocking, man. Just shocking. Just all so surprising. But then the spectacular. The Eagles found a way to win with a quarterback who was worse than Trent Dilfer. Remember the year Trent Dilfer with the Baltimore Ravens in 2001 Super Bowl? That's how bad Nick Foles is. Nick Foles is worse than Trent Dilfer was. 10 times worse. Nick Foles has a worse completion percentage, yards per attempt, the whole deal. You know what else is spectacular? Blake Bortles put up 45 points on a Mike Tomlin defense in Heinz Field. I just had to say that again. Blake Bortles put up 45 points. That was 38 because of the interception, but 45 points. Blake Bortles had 214 yards passing, 35 yards rushing, a 90 QBR, and a 94 quarterback rating, and no interceptions. Blake Bortles, no interceptions. And nobody's behind Marcus Diggs at the end of the Saints-Vikings game as he runs in for an uncontested touchdown. I don't know what the hell rookie safety Marcus Williams was doing. I don't know what Marcus was doing. I don't know if Marcus was confused. I don't know if Marcus was chilling. I don't know if he wasn't listening to the play call. And I'm not trying to, I don't want to condemn the guy because as an athlete, we've all made these type of mistakes. But it's just, you can't do it. It's not that time. He completely misjudges it. And I'm a little more angry at the Sean Payton, the Saints defensive coordinator, because how is there nobody behind? In a play like that, you're supposed to have multiple people back behind to stop him. Tackle him inbounds, the clock runs out. After Marcus Williams misses it, Stephon Diggs keeps himself in bounds and realizes, holy crap, nobody's ahead of me. Nobody's open daylight. I'm going to score this touchdown. And he runs in and he scores a touchdown. This weekend's taught me so many things. Let's put some respect on Blake Bortles' name. Let's just do it. Jadeveon Clowney stated he was trash. Earl Thomas said, we lost to a subpar quarterback. I've stated Blake Bortles sucks. And one time I said, it hurts my eyes to see him play. The game is literally never over. Something else I've learned. The Saints had the game won. All but one. And Marcus Williams, all he has to do is tackle Stephon Diggs. And he doesn't. You go over that play thousands and thousands of times since Pee Wee football. That's a routine play. A routine play. And it just didn't work out. And Case Keenum, Like I said, Case Keenum's a player. Case Keenum can play. He played well against the Saints in the playoffs, threw for 318 passing yards, 62.5 completion percentage, 7.95 yards per pass, and an 85.2 quarterback rating. He has a nice arm. He's accurate in his intermediate mid-range throws. He had control of the entire offense, and he believed. This man believed. And that's one of the most powerful things when you believe. That's just so powerful. Don't underestimate your opponent. Don't underestimate your opponent. The Steelers are overlooking the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mike Mitchell, safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was quoted as saying, "We're going to play the Patriots again. We can play them in hell. We can play them in Haiti. We can play them in New England. We're going to win." Mike Mitchell, I guess you will be playing the New England Patriots in hell. I guess you'll have to. And I don't want to condemn anybody and say they're going to hell, but I guess that's the only place you're playing them, because the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game instead of you guys, because all you guys are talking about is the Patriots and not worrying about the Jacksonville Jaguars. In the unforgettable Blake Bortles beating Ben Roethlisberger in a shootout. The game ended up being 45-42. Oh my, if you told me that was the score and you said Blake Bortles had the winning 3 points, I would have been shocked. And the unpredictable. All 4 teams that are in the NFL's Final Four, let's look at their 4 quarterbacks. Case Keenum. If you said this in the beginning of the year. Case Keenum, Blake Bortles, Nick Foles. But the guy that's the best out of all of them is a 40-year-old quarterback. Crazy, right? But that 40-year-old quarterback's not any ordinary quarterback, and that's where we're going to go next. Tom Brady. So as we know, there's been a lot of speculation about, there's been reports coming from New England that there's this rift between Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Robert Kraft. And during the Tennessee Titans New England Patriots game, Tony Romo disputed all the reports. Tony Romo was like, the reports between the rift between Belichick, Brady, and Kraft, it's ridiculous. They're like a family. Families fight. And while I do agree with that, families fight, I will have to tell Tony Romo, and this is where we start our message. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing. Everything runs its course eventually. Everything will run its course. Kobe and Shaq broke up after winning 3 championships. Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson broke up after winning 2 championships. The Temptations broke up with Eddie Kendricks, David Ruffin, Otis Williams, Melvin, Paul and the crew. I used to love the Temptations. They broke up after singing songs like My Girl. Hits. They broke up. Hell, the Jackson 5 broke up. Michael left Tito, Jermaine, and Randy and all of them. Michael was like, I gotta do my own thing, bros. And they were brothers. They were actually all brothers. And the Beatles broke up. You know, here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. You know? They broke up. Because that was more important. Breaking up, wanted to do their own thing. Had disagreements. It's more important than being together and making more hits like Here Comes the Sun. Breakups happen. Nothing in this world lasts forever. Not TV shows, not movies, not school, thankfully. Not jobs, even though some of us wish they would. Jobs don't last forever. And life, even life doesn't last forever. I remember something in Charlotte's Web. Charlotte, as she was dying, with the pig and the spider, she was like, we're born, we live, we die. Nothing lasts forever in this world. So what would make you think that relationships are any different? You want to know something? 80% of marriages end in divorce in America. That's a bomb. I wasn't even expecting that one. I wasn't even expecting that one. That mind-blowingly shocked me. The average marriage in America only lasts 8.2 years. So I was thinking, you want to know why that is? People get tired of dealing with the same damn people every day. Sometimes it's not even their fault, probably. I know this happens to me. Sometimes I get tired of seeing the same people's faces. I'm like, I do not want to see you. Even my little brother, John. Sometimes I think he gets tired of seeing me. Sometimes he'll see me like, Daryl. He's like, you just too much. You're too much. I don't want to see you. He's like, I love you. I just don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you. I want to hear your voice. That's just the way it is sometimes. I'll tell you a story. In high school, I had this training partner for wrestling. Ty Jones, right? We would wrestle every day during the summer, during the season, all that. By the time it was senior year, I remember he told our Coach Bauer, he was like, I don't want to practice with Daryl today. And I'm like, why? I was a little mad because you're the girl that goes to prom. Like, nobody wants to dance with you. Nobody's talking to you, so you're all alone. There's no partner. I was like, Ty, why would you want to wrestle? He's like, listen, man. He's like, you just annoying to wrestle. He said, if I keep wrestling you, you making me mad. He's like, I'm going to have to punch you in the face, bro. I'm going to have to fight you. And he said it jokingly, but he said it jokingly in a way that he was sort of serious. Because that's the way. People get tired of dealing with the same people every day. It is just that way. Just that way. So when we hear stuff, and we did all this drama swirling around New England, Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, Tom Brady, that there's all this argument, there's all this infighting, let's remember who these people are. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft. Here's the thing about greatness, right? To be great, you have to be a little different. You have to be a little twisted, right? Because not everybody's great. Not everybody's great. But Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Robert Kraft are all great. Each of these guys are a little different, and that's what makes them great. I'm just not a knock against them. Tom Brady feels some type of way. He was a backup at Michigan for most of his career. He was a 6th-round pick in the NFL, 6th-round draft pick. He had to wait till Drew Bledsoe got hurt to get his opportunity. Tom Brady had an ambition and crazy drive most humans can't even understand or imagine. That's where he got to this point, winning 5 Super Bowl rings. Now, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback ever, and at least top 2, top 3, depending on who you go. Joe Montana, maybe you put John Elway in there. You have Tom Brady, right? Those are the 3 top names that probably come up. He got that way because of that obsessive, crazy drive. He eats kale. He won't drink a beer. All he does is yoga. Bill Belichick, he's great. Bill Belichick is a control freak, though. He wants things done a certain way, a specific way. He's the head coach and general manager of the Patriots. He'll cut you, he'll sign you, he'll trade you, he'll do whatever the hell he wants to do to make him and his team better. He made the Patriots practice in the freezing snow last week. That's why Bill Belichick is the greatest coach ever. No attachments to players, always has no emotion, always does what is the best for the franchise. And Robert Kraft, he's a businessman, billionaire. He's worth $6.2 billion. People don't tell him what to do. Robert Kraft tells people what to do. And you want to know Robert Kraft's ambition and him making decisions for himself? That's why Robert Kraft's gotten to where he is. You don't become a billionaire, now unless you're born in what, but you just don't become a billionaire for being a dummy now. I can't say that on anyone. If you're a billionaire, you're smart and you've done stuff. And also the great thing is, we have to remember with Robert Kraft, since he's done stuff and he's made gambles, he's right, because he's made these business decisions and, these type of gambles economically, he's usually right because it's worked out for him. So you have 3 of the most successful men in their individual fields working together for 18 years. There will be conflict. There will be fighting. There will be arguing. Each of them got to where they were in a different way. They all came from different places, but they all got to the same place. So when you hear there's problems in New England, I'm not surprised. Listen, everyone has an ego. I think I probably have an ego, and I don't think I'm that type of person really have an ego. Most people probably say Daryl does not have an ego. I have a little ego probably. And if I have a little ego, could you imagine somebody that's super successful, super rich, has all this stuff? Tom Brady has a supermodel wife, everything. Bill Belichick has all this praise, he has all this control. Robert Kraft's a billionaire. Could you imagine their egos? Just imagine. You want to know what the thing about an ego? The more successful you are, rightfully so, the more your ego grows. The more your ego will grow. Next up on Barber Shop Sports Talk, I'm going to give my opinions on one coach and tell you how I really feel about him. Coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk. We're back with Barber Shop Sports Talk, and I just real quickly want to talk about the national championship game in college football because we didn't have the show last week. Nick Saban beating his protege Kirby Smart in the national championship game in overtime. Alabama was down like 17 points, come back. The win just submits to me that Nick Saban is the greatest college football coach ever. One of the greatest overall football coaches ever. You can't even, to me, deny that. 6 rings now, tying Bear Bryant. He's won 5 of the last 9 championships. That's an unprecedented run. Unprecedented. In any sport, at any time, 5 of the last 9 championships. In a sport that tries to permit parity. Like, Alabama's not the only, blue blood, so to speak, in college football. There's your Alabamas, even in their own conference. Let's go Alabama, LSU. They get lots of the top recruits. Texas A&M because they're in the state of Texas. Florida, 4 schools right there. And Auburn. Then you go outside that, you got Ohio State, you got Michigan, you got USC. You got all these schools. Oklahoma's another one. All these schools, all these teams, and I'm also forgetting FSU. See, the point is there's a lot of teams, a lot of guys that can recruit, a lot of coaches that can recruit. But Nick Saban seems to get the recruits. I mean, that Tua Tagovailoa, I'm sorry for butchering his name, from Hawaii. He's a protege of Marcus Mariota, actually. That boy, he can spin the football. He can spin the football. And for Nick Saban to have the gumption to bench Jalen Hurts, who got offensive MVP in the Sugar Bowl against Clemson a week before, to go to a true freshman. That takes guts, man. That takes guts. And Nick Saban did it, and Nick Saban won. But the funniest thing to me about the whole thing is Tua, even he had these great, beautiful arcing throws. So that kid will play on Sunday. He will play in the NFL. But I'm just like, why is the best quarterback been sitting on the bench this whole time? This is just crazy. Just crazy. I don't know why. And then Nick Saban brought in the true freshman running back, Najee Harris, who's a big running back. He's quick, 227 pounds, 6'2". And they finally put him in the game, and he was killing it too. I was like, Nick Saban, the left tackle, lineman, another receiver. Like, Nick Saban's like, okay, they're being nice. It's time to put in the A-team, guys. It's time to put in the A-team. Like, let you step on the throat. Now, it was crazy because Alabama had this extra gear, and they put all these young, talented guys in. That's just all part of the recruiting, and it's crazy. Nick Saban's backups are better than his starters in some case. But people may like to make the dumb fan argument, and I've always hated this. Nick Saban's only good because of his recruits. Well, that kind of is the point. In college football, college basketball, hell, college sports, Division I, Division II, Division III, JUCO, NIA, however you want to slice it. In college sports across the board, if you get the best recruits, you usually win. That is part of the ordeal here. Is this supposed to shock anybody? That he's making a trip to Hawaii? And Gus Malzahn is not? Let's say? Or Kirby Smart is not? Or Urban Meyer is not? To get a quarterback like Tua? And the fact that he can convince a guy like Tua to come in when you have Jalen Hurts there, and Jalen Hurts is only a year older. Jalen Hurts took his team to the national championship as a true freshman. So the next year, Jalen Hurts is a true sophomore, and Tua comes in as a freshman. Nick Saban's like, you're going to have to compete for the job. And he still gets Tua to come. And Trent was bragging about, because Trent runs that Elite 11 quarterback camp, and Trent was bragging about that. Tua, he was the best quarterback prospect at that age he's ever seen. And Nick Saban gets Tua to come in and say, you have to compete. You have to compete. And when Jalen Hurts got benched for Tua, because I love Jalen Hurts, though. I love the brother, but he cannot throw a lick, man. He cannot throw a lick. But then when Jalen Hurts gets benched, he supported Tua on the sideline, and just like, that's just the beauty of recruiting. And that's what makes Nick Saban so great. So you can use the dumb fan argument and say, oh, he's only good because he gets all these recruits, but that's the point. I would question him if he wasn't recruiting. That's what you're supposed to do. And also, all the top teams, Ohio State, Alabama, Florida State, Michigan, Auburn, Florida, USC, you name it. All of them get the best recruits. If you look at the top 10 teams in college football this year, they probably have the best recruiting classes. Probably have the best recruiting classes. So this isn't a shock. This isn't supposed to surprise anybody. It's the name of the game. Nick Saban's just running the game. Now I'm going to have to talk a little less glowingly about a coach I love in the NFL, Mike Tomlin, who needs the answer for his horrendous coaching job against the Jacksonville Jaguars yesterday. Mike Tomlin's a defensive coach, right? So why did he not have his defense ready for the Jaguars? The Steelers gave up 45 points. 45 points to Blake Bortles. And Blake Bortles played well. He played better than I ever thought he could play. But still Blake Bortles. If Blake Bortles looks bad against everybody else, but he's looking good against you, that is a problem. That is not a good thing. Not a good thing. Blake Bortles had 214 passing yards, 167 yards, and the Jacksonville Jaguars got 167 yards rushing on the ground, with Leonard Fournette. Just destroyed the Steelers' defense. Like, Steelers were missing tackles. Everything was open. Blake Bortles like bing, bing, bong, boom. Bing, bing, bong, boom. Open receiver after open receiver. I'm just like, what is going on here? What is going on here? The next up, the other problem I have with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin, they underestimate the Jaguars. 45 points is the most the Steelers have given up all year. Jacksonville started out 21-0. That's how the game started. The Steelers were lethargic on both offense and defense at the beginning of the game. Not only that, Mike Tomlin made a huge coaching mistake when the Steelers were trailing 42-35 with 2 minutes and 18 seconds left to play. They had 2 timeouts remaining. And Mike Tomlin calls an onside kick. Now, you know the Jaguars are probably going to run the ball because they have Blake Bortles, even though he was playing well, but they're probably going to run the ball. You have faith in your defense. You're a defensive coach. You're a defensive guy. Have your defense have a 3-and-out. That's what you do. And Mike Tomlin decided not to do that, decided to get cute with the onside kick. It was a horribly executed onside kick. The Pittsburgh Steelers kicker kicked it right to the Jaguars player. And it was already on the Steelers side of the field. So after the Steelers got the 3-and-out, they kicked the field goal to bring the score to 45-35, and the game was already out of reach now after that. Already out of reach. And then my biggest problem with the Mike Tomlin coaching era, my biggest problem, Tomlin allowed this Pittsburgh Steelers team to just focus on New England. All the Steelers players, that's all they talked about, was an AFC Championship rematch with the Patriots. Le'Veon Bell tweeted out before the Jaguars playoff game, "I love round twos. We'll have 2 round twos. It's back-to-back weeks." Saying that they're going to beat the Jaguars in their rematch, and then beat New England. Then Mike Mitchell's comments, "We're going to play the Patriots in hell if need be." Mike Tomlin was talking all year, this is going to be a championship game, this is going to be the championship game. And all that Steelers talk about the Patriots, it motivated the Jaguars. That's what Miles Jack, a linebacker for the Jaguars, had to say. You can't overlook us. And that's what we took. We took that as disrespect. That they were already looking ahead to the next week while we were focusing on them. Disrespect. Then you have Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey's one was the funniest. He was like, "Excuse my language, but we don't give an explicative. We really don't care. We knew what we was going to do. We didn't really have to be worried about all that. Talking is cool. You can do all the talking you want on Twitter, to the media, all of that. When you get on the field, you're going to have to produce." And the Steelers did not produce. They just didn't. And there's no excuse for it. The team was not ready. It was lackluster from the coaching eras. But, and I will say this in Mike Tomlin's defense, the Steelers did make a comeback. Because the Jaguars started out 21-0 with that hellacious defense with Jalen Ramsey, Malik Jackson, Miles Jack, and all of them. You have Leonard Fournette run the ball. You have Blake Bortles playing well. And the Steelers came back, right? The Steelers came back. The Steelers showed heart. But they should have never been down like that in the beginning. And a Jacksonville team that's honestly, they beat him in Heinz Field twice this year. Jacksonville's probably a better team. But that's why you have to be more extra focused for a team that you know is better than you. And the Steelers were nearly as worried about that They are more worried about Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and Robert Kraft. And that's why they'll be watching the Jaguars and the Patriots in the AFC Championship game like you, me, and Dupree, and the rest of us. Okay, coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk, I'm going to tell you why Nick Saban will never leave college football. And why Bill Belichick has something to do with that. Coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk. Oh, we're back with Barber Shop Sports Talk. And now it's time for a little crazy, lazy, or maybe. Lane Kiffin says Tua Tagovailoa would have left Alabama had he not played versus Georgia. If this second half doesn't flip like this and Alabama is moving the ball and doesn't change quarterbacks, people that really know what's going on will tell you that Tua was leaving. Because Tua thought that he should have been the starting quarterback and had outperformed him in practice, and coach never gave him an opportunity. Maybe Lane has a point. Listen, I love Jalen Hurts. Like I said, I love the brother. I remember I was watching the Auburn-Alabama game with my dad. My dad's like, man, this dude can't throw. If I was too happy, pissed too if he was starting ahead of me. Jalen Hurts' quarterback skills are remedial, at best. Jalen Hurts cannot throw, and I love Jalen Hurts. Good guy. He can't throw. It makes sense for Tua to start thinking, I might need to transfer out of here. Kirk Cousins would reportedly seriously consider playing for the Browns. Crazy. Why would you go to the Browns? That is quarterback and football death. You don't want to play for the Browns. That could ruin your career. That is a career-altering decision. You don't want to go to the Browns. Trust me. You don't want to. UCF fans buy a billboard ad asking Alabama if it wants to play UCF in a home-and-home. Crazy. You don't want a home-and-home with Alabama, UCF, especially with Scott Frost leaving for Nebraska, your head coach that won the Bear Bryant AP Coach of the Year for college football, and now he's gone. You don't want to play Alabama in a home-and-home. You don't want it. You really don't want it. Saw what Alabama did to Georgia. Saw what they did to Clemson. You do not want Alabama. Trust me on that. You do not want it, and those fans can talk, and they can have UCF will talk about how they really won the national championship because they beat Auburn and they were undefeated and all this other stuff, because when they beat Auburn, they could play against the Power 5 and all this stuff. They would get rolled by Alabama. It'd be like remember the Notre Dame Alabama championship game like 4 or 5 years ago? Remember that game? With Manti Te'o in them? It would be like that. It'd be like a 42-10 blowout. Coaches want to allow redshirts to play without losing eligibility. American Football Coaches Association Convention Director Todd Berry said, current rules say that barring medical reasons, any game appearances during the season would cost a player a year of eligibility. This needs to pass. Emotionally, it's the most difficult. Academically, it's the most difficult because you don't feel like you're included on the team. And you've been part of this all your life. Lazy. Listen. You can't just have red shirts play sporadically in games. The whole point of red shirting is for you to sit down and develop. Well, I do think for what red shirts and what you should do is have them around the team, because I don't think you can necessarily have them around the team. I think they have to be away. You can have them at the team, at the practices, and all that type of stuff. Traveling with the team, all that type, all that good if you want to be part of the team. But you can't have red shirts play. The whole point is for developing players. That's why you get the extra year. If not, then don't have red shirts. Just don't have red shirts. Sammy Sosa needs to be honest with Cubs to be welcome back. Tom Ricketts says. Chicago Cubs owner Tom Ricketts said Saturday that former outfielder Sammy Sosa needs to be honest with the team regarding performance-enhancing drug use before he will be welcomed back. Maybe this is what needs to happen. Listen. Sammy Sosa and all of them, they were lying up on Capitol Hill. We're talking about steroids and all that stuff. Listen, come clean. I mean, A-Rod never came clean, really. A-Rod kept lying. That's why everybody hates A-Rod. But still. Actually, no, I think people like A-Rod now because of J-Lo. But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But Sammy Sosa comes through. He can be welcomed back if Sammy Sosa comes clean. That's all you have to do. your playing career is over. I mean, people are going to think you did it or not. You're probably not going to be in the Hall of Fame. Just admit to it. Like, really. Spurs, Greg Popovich admits to overcoaching LaMarcus Aldridge. Greg Popovich said, "We had some dinners and meetings and laughed." Popovich said, "I was very candid with him. I told him I'd be happy to trade you. You give me a talent like Kevin Durant and I'll drive you to the airport. I'll pack your bags and I will drive you there, get you on the plane and get you seated." He laughed, that kind of thing. I said, "But short of that, I'm your best buddy because you're here for another year and you ain't going nowhere because we're not going to get for you talent-wise what we would want. So let's figure this thing out." And we did. That's what we came to. Maybe Popovich has a point. He's like, "Listen, I guess I'm just going to have to not coach you as much. I'm going to have to be nicer to you, because we ain't trading. Listen, LaMarcus Aldridge, you can play the game basketball. You a top 25 player in the league. You have all-star talent. We're not trading you less for Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, or any of them. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins. We ain't trading you lessons for them. We ain't trading you for the castrated Kyrie Irving to the Celtics. We ain't trading you for Isaiah Thomas, Ninick, Kirkic, and Jay Crowder. We ain't doing that. We ain't trading you like the Lakers when they got Pau Gasol for Kwame Brown. We ain't doing that. We're trading you for a player that's better than you." Paterno, to debut this spring on HBO, it focuses on the downfall of the Penn State head coach. "We didn't want to do this Sandusky pedophile story," said HBO Films president Lynn Amato, speaking to reporters. "That wasn't of interest to us, and we didn't want to do a story that would not embrace the experiences of the victims, because that was one of the casualties of the whole episode." I would actually prefer if they did Paterno and Sandusky, just to give more insight into what happened and stuff like that. Maybe that could be a book or something of that nature, because I get it, HBO, you don't want to relitigate the victims, so I'm going to go, maybe he has a point. Personally, I guess a little selfish. I don't even want to say selfishly, because it's their experiences. They don't want to relive that. But, as a sports fan, as somebody that's interested in that type of stuff, I would like to know a little bit more about Sandusky and how some of that stuff transpired. But sometimes some things, are better left unsaid. That concludes Crazy, Lazy, or Maybe. Now, I'm going to tell you why Bill Belichick is the exact reason Nick Saban ain't leaving Tuscaloosa. He ain't leaving Alabama. So everybody's always like, why can't Nick Saban go to the NFL? Because, you always, every NFL offseason, you hear that question pop up. And the reason Nick Saban will never leave is because he's learned too much from Bill Belichick. The guy that he worked with was his co-worker with the Cleveland Browns. And he's learned two important things from Bill Belichick. No matter what, keep control over your program. Your coaching staff, your players. Keep the control. And make sure you have a quarterback. That's why Nick Saban ain't going to the NFL. If he's been reading the news with Bill Belichick, heard the stories, heard the reports, Bill Belichick's owner, Robert Kraft, told him to trade his star prospect at quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, because Tom Brady asked him to. That was basically the conversation. And Bill Belichick had to sit there and listen. Because Tom Brady and the owner, Bob Kraft, are like father and son. That supersedes everything Bill Belichick can do with the franchise. You really think that would happen to Nick Saban? No. Nick Saban tells people what to do. He's not the one getting told what to do. Now, if Nick Saban also remembers a time when he was in Cleveland, him and Bill Belichick both got their arses fired, right? Both got fired. And why did they get fired? They didn't have a quarterback in Cleveland. And then when Bill Belichick ended up having success, it was because he found Tom Brady. Now, when Nick Saban went to the NFL, after leaving LSU, when he left LSU and went to the Miami Dolphins, he got fired after 2 years and left. He left because he didn't have a quarterback. If you're going to the NFL, you need a quarterback to win. You need a quarterback to win. And then there's just the truth of the matter. For Nick Saban, it will never get better. It will never get better for you than it is right now. It just won't. 6 national championships, tied with Bear Bryant for the most ever. Nick Saban's not going to surpass that in the NFL. Man's 60 plus years old. Right now in Alabama, Nick Saban is Jesus walking on water. He can stay at Alabama for as long as he pleases. He can do whatever he wants at Alabama. I remember just talking about Joe Paterno earlier in the show. The Penn State president and athletic director, they came into his house and tried to tell him, you need to retire, Joe, because you're 85 years old, right? And Joe Paterno's like, get the hell out of my house. And they left the house. The college football coach is more powerful than everybody else on campus. You're a god. If you try that in the NFL, could you imagine if the owner calls? First of all, the owner doesn't come to the coach's house in the NFL. The owner don't come to the coach's house. The coach has to go to the owner's office, and then they get the pink slip. But could you imagine Bill Belichick or any coach walking to the owner's office saying, you're not firing me. Get the hell out of here. No, it just don't work. It just does not work that way. It just doesn't. In the NFL, the owner's Jesus. And if the owner ain't Jesus, it's the star player. In college, Nick Saban gets paid more money, $11 million a year, the most in college football, higher than any other college football coach. Bill Belichick, a contemporary, also recognized universally as the best coach in the NFL right now, is the 4th highest paid coach. 4th. In college, you get to mentor young men, help them better their lives. Or I guess you're sort of a process of them getting their education, having them grow as human beings and people that can contribute to our society. In the NFL, you got people just trying to get paid and trying to provide for them and their families. College football, really, if you're a star college football coach, there's no stress. You're never criticized. The media doesn't call you out. You see how Nick Saban treats the media? He does whatever the hell he wants to say to them. Nick Saban does whatever he wants. He is free from criticism. You don't need a star quarterback. Jalen Hurts can't throw a lick, and he was 25-2 as the Alabama starter. You can't win, in most cases, 7 games in the NFL without a star quarterback. You can't. The fans are much different. College football fans love you no matter what. They love you no matter what, Saturdays, cheering for you, ride or die. In the NFL, you go on a 3-game losing streak, fans will start calling for your job. Fans will start calling for your job. And quite frankly, Nick Saban has the best job in America. He's the king of Alabama, a top 5 program in the country historically, gets every top recruiting class, makes $11 million a year. He's winning. He can't get fired. The wife's happy. Everybody's happy. The NFL, for the most part, will just chew you up and spit you out. That's what it does to most coaches. And for the greats like Bill Belichick, you have to deal with not having full control of your roster, even though you deserve to have full control of your roster and you've had so much success over the years. When you don't have a quarterback, you get fired. You can be the best coach ever, like Bill Belichick is largely recognized, universally recognized. And you're not even the highest paid coach. Nick Saban ain't leaving the NFL. He's laying back and relaxed, sitting fed and happy, stress-free in Alabama. The weather's nice in Alabama. You think he wants to go to Indianapolis? All that weather? I think not. Now, coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk, we're going to have Ben Goodman on the show. Can't wait for that. Going to be a great interview. Coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk. Oh, we're back with Barbershop Sports Talk, and we have Ben Goodman back with us. How are you doing, Ben?
So far so good. Back at school, ready to get the semester started.
So, yesterday actually, crazy weekend of football, right?
Oh, absolutely. You saw, upsets left and right, shocking performances by just about every team that played. It was an incredible weekend of football.
So I just want to start with the last game, the Minnesota Saints game. Describe to me how that happens at the end of the play. Nobody's there. Stephon Diggs runs clean into the end zone.
I think the Saints thought they had it. And when you think that you have it, you let your guard down. I think that was the biggest bit there was they let their guard down. When you go out, my dad has a saying. It's, prevent packages, prevent you from winning.
Yeah.
And I love that phrase. I love that phrase because if you don't play your defensive game plan, you're going to get screwed over. I hate prevent defenses. I don't think they work. And it was pretty clear there. All I had to do is take an open shot in a zone, give the ball to the receiver. The receiver broke 2 tackles, and he's gone. And that was what killed him. We haven't seen a comeback like that since the Music City Miracle, or a play like that since the Music City Miracle back in 1999. Was the last time the Bills made the playoffs before this year. It's crazy stuff like that happens, and you just got to be prepared for it. I don't think the Saints were prepared for it in that moment.
No, my thing is the safety. I forget his first name, the Williams guy.
Yeah.
He just completely misjudges it, and he whiffs on it. He takes out the corner in the process.
That's one mistake. You get a couple mistakes every single game.
And he's going to live with that for the rest of his life. He'll never forget that.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? His teammates won't let him forget it either.
No.
That's the other thing. And, I wouldn't be surprised if the coaches reevaluate where he's at. After you make a mistake like that, the fans are going to be asking for his head.
He had a really good season as a rookie. But there's one thing I do want to say. Usually when you have a prevent defense, you have more guys back.
Right.
They were running sort of like a regular defense, sort of like just the regular 2 safeties. Like, you got to have a couple more guys back there as like a more line of defense.
See, I didn't necessarily see how many people they had rushing is the biggest thing. Is if they were going with a 3-man rush, then that's just stupid. You got to get to the quarterback and you got to get that play done with. And I think it goes back to they let their guard down. I don't think they were playing 100% on that last play because they thought we won this game. This game is ours. I don't think they were expecting the big play that were to come out of that.
Now, the other shocking game yesterday was the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, first of all, let's just start with the Steelers. I think Mike Tomlin and them did a horrible job preparing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think they prepared for them at all, considering Blake Bortles put up 45 points. So, just what did you see from a defensive perspective on how that can happen? How can Blake Bortles do something like that?
It comes down to preparation. I think everyone thought that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to take this game and run away from the Jacksonville Jaguars with it. And so I think they went in with a certain cocky attitude, kind of similar to the Saints at the end of last game.
Yeah.
Saints, their cocky attitude lasted 23 seconds. Pittsburgh lasted probably a week coming up into the game itself. And so you're going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars had the number 2 regular season defense this year. They were going to play lights out. You saw it against the Bills. They were playing great defense.
They have some guys that they're just like some weird stuff, just fast, twitchy muscle. Like they move differently. It's some fast, twitchy type stuff but most humans can't do what they do. Like guys like Miles from UCLA, the linebacker. Malik Jackson, Jalen Ramsey. Just some fast, twitchy, quick stuff that just is scary.
Absolutely. They were the number 1 passing defense this regular season, while the Steelers, they were the number 3 passing offense.
Yeah.
So when you bring those 2 elements together, it's no surprise that, Big Ben gets picked off in the beginning. And also, Jacksonville had the number 1 rushing attack this season. They led the league in yards per game with 141.4. Yeah. And so you're going to get Jacksonville behind Leonard Fournette, pounding the rock, getting points off those turnovers, and that's how they get up to the 24-0 lead. And then, thank God, their defense was strong enough to hold the Pittsburgh Steelers back enough that the offense could outscore them in the second half and come away with that playoff victory. But I think that's one of the biggest shocks of this entire, season. I think honestly the Minnesota Saints game was a bit of a toss-up, and that last play made it a shocking moment. But I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are the dark horse right now in this playoff picture as they go into New England. And I think New England should be a little frightened, honestly.
Now, speaking of that, Tom Brady's been on a roll. He had like 337 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, just destroyed the Titans. How can the Jacksonville Jaguars, or any team, how can you disrupt Tom Brady? How can you stop him from playing so well?
I think the biggest thing with disrupting Tom Brady, and you kind of have seen it in the past, is pass rush. You got to get past his O-line, because what they do is they run a typical spread offense that depends heavily on a very strong O-line. And I think you're going to get that very strong defensive pass rush from the guys you talked about before on the Jacksonville D-line and the Jacksonville outside linebackers. They are pass rushing menaces, and they're going to get to Tom Brady.
Now, so that's just what you need. You just need to get a rush on Brady. Just need to get a rush.
I think so, because if you watch Tom Brady play, he's good, and he is good under pressure. But a lot of that has to do with a great O-line.
Yeah.
They have a fantastic offensive line, and the scheme that is run by their offense is not a scheme that factors in a lot of additional blocking. A lot of times it's just the O-lineman. So if you can get around to get pressure, and also the other key is, good man coverage. In ultimate frisbee, you have 10 seconds to throw the disc. The way I look at it is pass rush is sort of a game clock. If you can reduce that, then the safety and the corners only have to cover for 3 to 5 seconds, and those safeties and corners that Jacksonville have the ability to cover for 3 to 5 seconds. It's after that, if the play gets extended, that's when holes start opening up, and people can't cover certain receivers.
Now, just quickly to go back to the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, how good do you think they can be, like, in just the grand perspective of all time? Like, when we talk about best defenses, like...
I think they're still relatively young. If they keep the people, I don't think they're one of the greatest defenses of all time. Mostly because they're really bad against the inside run.
Yeah, they are.
If you get, the Patriots are not terribly good at running the football.
No.
So that's going to be the kind of catch-all is they're going to hang their hat on Tom Brady's passing performance against the number 1 passing defense in the NFL, which is a little frightening. Frightening for the Patriots.
Yeah.
And Patriots fans across the league. I would probably say I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars are an elite defense. They're a really good defense. I don't think they're elite defensive history yet.
Okay.
I think if they keep the talented players they have this year and then build off this year, I think they have the potential to be like an 86 Bears or, a 2000s Ravens defense. I think that they can be that. It's just not going to be this year. It'll have to wait until next year.
Now, the Patriots, it's lots have been talked about how their defense was awful to begin the year. Kansas City, they ran roughshod all over, and now they've steadily gotten better and better and better. And now you see them in the divisional round against the Titans. They have 8 sacks, and they're just playing great without guys like Dante Hightower. How is Bill Belichick in New England able to doctor up this defense to play this well without not really big name guys?
The biggest thing for New England is they are. And you know what? I say this cringingly as a Buffalo fan, but they are one of the most resilient and best teams in the league at adapting. Bill Belichick is probably the greatest coach to ever coach the game of football. I'm saying that as a Bills fan. We have to play him twice a year. We've had to play him twice a year for the last 18 years. I have seen what he can do. You saw what he could do last year in the Super Bowl. The biggest thing is it's about adjustments. And that's a kind of a good thing to take out of the Steelers game, too. I'm going to go on a slight tangent. Is they adjusted at halftime and were able to bring it back. They just weren't prepared. And I think the Patriots are going to be prepared for the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially after the Steelers showed an example of what unpreparedness is not going to look like. Or what unpreparedness does look like. The Steelers are going to try. Patriots. Wow, I'm getting my teams mixed up. Patriots aren't going to look like that. They're going to go in. Bill Belichick is one of the best game planners in the league, and he's also one of the best adapters in the league. He will know what he's doing. As far as their defense goes, I promise you, happiest guy in the league right now is James Harrison. He just saw the Steelers defense get torn up. He's, feeling vindicated. He's ready to go, and he's ready to play against this Jacksonville Jaguars team. I think he's a huge addition to their defense. And now that they've got him acclimated in there, he's been playing outstanding.
Yeah.
He played outstanding in their, finale for the regular season. And I don't see any reason why that should change. And he'll be going up against rookie Leonard Fournette, and I think that's going to be an interesting matchup to look at moving forward.
Now, quick question. What team do you think has more regret? I'm going to give you these two things. The Cleveland Browns for firing Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, or the Los Angeles Rams for getting rid of both Case Keenum and Nick Foles. Which one's worse?
Which one's worse? The Cleveland Browns getting rid of Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. 100%. I think historically you will never see a team fire coaches with so much success. I mean, Bill Belichick, head coach of the Cleveland Browns, took an awful team, and took them to the playoffs, and they were Super Bowl favorites before the move was announced. And once the move was announced, everybody just became disengaged and just stopped playing, which makes sense. You lose morale when that kind of stuff happens. They were playing for the city of Cleveland, and then you don't play for the city of Cleveland anymore. That's very difficult. That's a very difficult hit to your morale. And so Bill Belichick is probably one of the greatest coaches. Like I said, greatest coach in NFL history. He took the Cleveland Browns, which were failing, and took them to the playoffs. Was gonna take them to the Super Bowl, probably. Then he comes out and comes to the New England Patriots. Has been there for 18, 19 years?
Yeah, 18.
And has won how many rings now? 4? Five. Yeah, 5 rings.
7.
Yeah, 5. He's won 5 rings as a head coach for the New England Patriots, and he is on path to win his 6th and tie the NFL record for the most franchise Super Bowl wins. Nick Saban, what he did this past week in Alabama was absolutely incredible. He led a stunning comeback, won a national championship. How many of those has he won now? 5?
5.
Right. He's won 5 national championships of the last...
No, 6. 6 now, I think now. 6. You tied Bear Bryant, 6.
6, okay. Yeah, 6 of the last, 9 have been...
Yeah. No, 5 of the last 9.
5 of the last 9, yeah.
And he won his first at LSU.
Yeah, 5 of the last 9 national championships have been won by Alabama, coached by Nick Saban. He is the Bill Belichick of the college football world. Now, quarterbacks are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Case Keenum, Nick Foles, they're good. I see them best as journeyman quarterbacks. They're guys that'll flow and run your offense, but past that, nothing more. Coaches change your game. Coaches change your team.
Okay, now coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk, we're going to talk a little bit more about Bill Belichick and what's brewing in New England, because there's been some reports. You ready to talk about that?
Absolutely, 100%.
Coming up next on Barber Shop Sports Talk. We're back with Barber Shop Sports Talk. Still have Ben Goodman with us. Before we're talking a little bit about the Jaguars, the Patriots, Minnesota Vikings, this crazy weekend of football. But now I want to ask you about, as a Bills fan, there's been reports in New England that there's some dissent, let's say call it that, with Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Robert Kraft. What do you think is going on there?
I've heard the reports about it. There were counter reports, obviously, where Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and Robert Kraft all came out and said, hey, these are false. There's no dissent. There's no frustration. I honestly don't know, because I was never in that locker room. I don't know. I don't know where the reports necessarily have come from. I think people are speculating. Honestly, I think everything's fine in New England. I don't mean everything's fine, but you're going to get another 2 or 3 years out of Tom Brady, and you're probably going to get another 2 to 3 years out of Bill Belichick, honestly. I think both of them are aging. They've been there for a very, very long time. Very long tenure as a head coach and a quarterback for the team. And I think people are trying to speculate and make rumors about stuff that may or may not exist. I think the Garoppolo trade I just don't think they liked what they saw, and I think they knew that...
Jimmy Garoppolo's a player there.
He is absolutely a player, but I don't know if they knew how good he was when he ended up at the 49ers. He obviously had a very hot end of the season. And I also think what they saw was Tom Brady can keep playing. I think Jimmy Garoppolo was there. Okay, this is going to be the guy we groom over the next 2 years or so. But, I mean, he's already been on the roster for a couple of years. And if Tom Brady can play another couple, which he's playing out of his mind still, you don't want to keep a guy around like that. And they got a pretty decent deal for him. And I think that's what happened. And as far as the coordinators leaving, I think the coordinators are just ready to leave. I don't think necessarily Bill Belichick's influencing them in any way. That's not Bill Belichick's style. Bill Belichick's not a drama queen. He's not one of these guys who's going to go out and stir the pot. He's never been that way. He's always been very cool, calm, collected, and straightforward to the point. So him kind of taking vengeance on Robert Kraft, I just don't see it.
Now, I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, but I think there is, I don't want to say an uneasy relationship. I'll call it an uneasy relationship because I think, when you deal with somebody for 18 years, there's people that you see every day and you just get tired of seeing them, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think when you have three alpha males, highly successful in each of their individual fields, right? You got a billionaire, the best coach ever, the best quarterback ever. People say greatness is hard to deal with. You have three great guys. I think having them all in confined space and seeing each other every day, I think that leads to a little bit of a little bit more of what we wouldn't think. I don't think they're all best friends. Let me put it to you that way. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think there's a notion that Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, talk to each other's kids and stuff. I don't think it's like that. I think it is strictly professional. Because I also feel as if when Bill Belichick traded Jimmy Garoppolo, I feel like Bill Belichick, like you said, he's the greatest coach ever. I think he knew what Jimmy Garoppolo was. Now, I don't know if what the reports are saying, because the reports are saying that he traded Jimmy G for nothing because as retaliation against Kraft. I don't know if it went that deep, but I think there's some not concerning, like firing the Guerrero, the trainer, when he's been there. And even though other players are going to him, and I guess that conflicts with the other trainers, if he's been had office there for 10 years and you finally get rid of him.
Right.
I think there is a little bit of uneasiness, and I do think this is what I do think. I think they will leave sooner than we think. I don't think Bill Belichick will ride this out. I think Tom Brady is a lot more likely to ride this out. Because if there's even a slight bit of truth that there was a little bit of Robert Kraft basically told him you can't get rid of Tom, like they were saying, you have to get rid of Garoppolo or whatever. If there's even a shred of truth, I think that would irk Belichick to the point where he would leave. Because, guys like Belichick and Saban, they're all about control. They want their 53-man roster. Because Belichick, he didn't care if it was Willie McGinnis, Ty Law, Randy Moss,
right,
Drew Bledsoe. He traded Drew Bledsoe in the division to the Bills. And Drew Bledsoe was a really good quarterback in this league.
Yeah.
So if he's going to it wouldn't surprise me if he was going to get rid of Tom Brady. So I think there is I think maybe it's been overblown a little bit, but I think there is some little signs that maybe not everything's as kosher as we would like to believe in New England.
I agree with what you're saying in that, they probably are not best friends. I can't imagine that Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick.
And Bill Belichick doesn't seem like he's best friends with anybody.
No. Apparently, he's a really nice guy. Actually, I read an article that apparently he's like the nicest dude ever. Yeah. But he's just he's very, very serious about his professional life, and I have immense respect for that. Immense respect for him. I don't know what Robert Kraft's up to. Why, after 18 seasons, this would boil over now, I don't know. I think I don't know what happens in the locker room.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens in the back offices, and so it's hard to make a really intelligent decision on or talk about these rumors in an intelligent way if I don't know what's actually going on.
And lots of the times, to be perfectly honest, there might be something, but a lot of times what cures argument, what cures dissension, it's winning. Right. And people forget about a lot of stuff really quickly when you're winning.
And that's why I don't understand this talk of all this drama that's going on is because Bill Belichick's been winning for 18 years. He has made Robert Kraft money. The New England Patriots last year were the top, in the last 5 years or so, have been one of the top grossing teams.
Yeah.
One of the top valued teams, only really behind the Dallas Cowboys, which, God, I don't understand why they're still bringing in the revenues they are with the success or lack thereof that they've had in the past couple of years. But the New England Patriots make Robert Kraft money, so I can't imagine he's that upset. I cannot see Bill Belichick losing control of himself or of this team. Now, I can see what you're saying with the being a control freak kind of thing, but he wouldn't retaliate about that. I think he's way more professional than that. I don't think he did it as a retaliation.
This is what I do.
I don't know.
I truly believe, I don't think he wanted to trade Jimmy Garoppolo for as little as he did, even if he did want to trade him. I think that seems a little weird to me. Because I just cannot believe that Bill Belichick didn't know what Jimmy Garoppolo was. I just can't believe. Bill Belichick doesn't miss. He doesn't lose in trades.
Right.
He does not lose in trades. And they were talking about the Browns. I mean, remember what the Redskins gave away for Robert Griffin III?
Oh, yeah.
Or what the Rams gave away to try to get Jared Goff. Jimmy Garoppolo's better than the... Honestly, right now, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be better than a guy like Jared Goff. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is very, very good.
Or is he going to be... what I'm wondering is it going to be... what's his name? The Redskins quarterback.
Kirk Cousins. I think he'll be a top 8 quarterback in this league, at the minimum. That's how high I am on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he'll be a top 8 quarterback.
But I just wonder, because it's so fickle, from year to year. Is Jimmy going to go into this? He's not a Tom Brady. Jimmy Garoppolo is not Tom Brady.
No.
By any means. And I mean that down to the soul of who you are as a quarterback. Tom Brady, the person that reminds me most of Tom Brady in this entire league is, I can't believe I'm forgetting names right now. Cowboys quarterback.
Tony Romo? Oh, Dak Prescott. Dak
Prescott. Dak Prescott is the guy that reminds me most of Tom Brady in this league. Why? Because it comes down to the little minute things about how he prepares for games, how he carries himself, how he takes care of himself. I don't necessarily think Jimmy Garoppolo's like that. I see him more as a Kirk Cousins, a guy that's going to be really hot for a short period of time, and we're going to see, only time can tell.
Yeah.
Excellence is a habit. And so we're going to see if Garoppolo is excellent or not. In the past, we have not seen an excellent Jimmy Garoppolo, except for this season. I mean, we've had to play him many times with the Bills.
He was solid when Brady was suspended.
He played well enough, but they were also riding on a very good defense and a pretty good running attack at that point in time. So as far as him alone, I don't think he can do the things that Tom Brady can. I think maybe that's what Bill Belichick saw. And I don't think Jimmy can do the things that Tom Brady can. And also, you're going to keep a guy on the roster that has been there for a while and probably wants to start out on his own. And he's probably discouraged because he thought Tom Brady was going to retire next year. He's a 40-plus-year-old quarterback. Yeah. Shouldn't he be gone? Shouldn't I be starting now? Almost, I'll call it the Kyrie Irving effect.
Yeah.
Getting stuck behind a great player and not getting the credit you want.
That's true. There's probably some truth into that. We're going to take a quick break, and coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about Nick Saban, that guy in Alabama. Coming up next in Barber Shop Sports Talk. Back with Barber Shop Sports Talk after we just had our New England Patriots theories as Buffalo Bills fans. So Ben, what makes Nick Saban like such a good defensive mind? Like how is Alabama able to continually year after year be so good on the defensive side of the ball?
It starts out, I think, with the biggest thing is organizational culture. I think organizational culture and culture of excellence is the way that you create and define football teams. We've talked, my last appearance with the show, I talked about how big of a buffoon Rex Ryan is.
Yeah.
That's an example of a very good poor organization or a poor locker room culture. You flip that around and you look at, who we were talking about before, Bill Belichick. Very strong organizational culture, very strong unified sense. The Cleveland Cavaliers, moving to a basketball example, in the past have had a very strong and engaged organizational culture at all levels of the organization. Yeah. Now this year their success is mild, but in past years, especially those championship years, their organizational culture was the key. And it starts out with two things. It starts out with the coach, so it starts out with the chief executive. What is the tone they set? And it starts with who you bring in. Year after year, Alabama's been able to recruit strong, defensive, talented players. Why? Because they have the standard of defensive excellence. Yeah. Everyone who plays defense well wants to go to Alabama. Not everyone, obviously, but a lot of people who play defense well want to go to Alabama because they know it's an excellent defensive school. That's kind of the benefit of having a school and a program that's had so much success under Saban is now it almost recruits itself. The name of Alabama, people want to play for the Crimson Tide. People, especially good defensive players. And also, we talked about it with the kind of the, not necessarily, but it was a big discussion point when they banned satellite camps, was there's a huge pool of recruits in the South. And Alabama's pretty central in the SEC in the southern area. So if you talk about people who are a drive's distance or a decent bus ride distance from Alabama, that's a huge recruiting pool compared to Michigan or Ohio State or even University of Buffalo. They gotta either pull those players up there now.
Yeah. Now, what do you think? Like, there's been a lot of conversation. People talk about it. I don't agree with it. I think it's a little bit of a stupid argument. But there are people that say Nick Saban's overrated, and the only reason he's good is because he gets those recruits. He doesn't have to do the coaching.
I think that's just smart coaching. I think when I worked for the John Carroll football team, they told me the biggest piece of experience that new coaches can get is recruiting. Because they told me anybody can run drills. You and I could stand out on the John Carroll football field with whistles and tell people to run around and punch bags and crap.
Yeah.
I just swore on the radio, but that's not a big deal. But we could blow whistles. We could have people run sprints. We could do all that stuff. We could ask advisors on how to set up workout programs. Like that's all stuff we can do.
Yeah.
And that's just easy stuff. The hardest part is bringing good people into the door and player development. And when you are a coach that can bring great people into the door, and you're also a coach that can take mediocre or bad people and bring them up to good and great levels, that is the sign of a great coach. And that is what Nick Saban can do. That's what Bill Belichick can do. The reason that people talk about the two of them in the same conversation, and that reason is they both are very, very similar. They support excellence, they bring in excellence, and they develop excellence. That's the key to being a great coach. And I think Nick Saban is a great coach. And I think saying, he's not the best coach or he's not the best play caller or whatever, that's a cop-out argument and is invalidating the fact that he is probably the greatest coach in college football history.
Okay. Now, this is also a question. How do you think he gets guys, like he's getting all these 5-star and 4-star recruits, how do you think he gets these guys that could go to, let's say, University of Buffalo, a Toledo, anywhere, and, be the guy, be the starter? And he sells them off the fact, you might not play till your junior or senior year.
For a lot of people, they want the success. They want the success of having a ring. And University of Buffalo, I love my hometown, but they're never going to get to the national championship in any time soon. No. And people,
we have to move to a Power 5 first. First of all.
Absolutely. And so we're not going to get to the national championship anytime soon. Same with Toledo. Ohio State, maybe. The powerhouses are in the SEC. The powerhouses are in the South. And also, the money's in the South. We talked about a lot of football programs have started putting barber shops inside of their athletic facilities. Because one school started doing it, and in their recruiting talks, they said, well, we got a barber shop. And so recruits started to ask, do you have a barber shop in your place? And if schools can have to say no to that, then that makes them look less.
Yeah.
It's going to be, a lot of it is facilities, a lot of it is the name, a lot of it's the reputation. He's able to bring in these guys, and also the knowledge that they very well could win a championship. If they're on the bench, they still get a ring.
Yeah, that is true. Now, actually, I don't know if you know, Jason Whitlock on a show, Speak for Yourself with Colin Cowherd, they were talking a lot about the Rooney Rule with everybody was talking about, John Gruden, did the Raiders actually interview a minority candidate? Was it just like a token interview, that sort of thing? And the point Jason Whitlock made was actually, I never actually thought about this, and I thought it was a very interesting point. He says the best way to get African-American coaches involved in the profession isn't necessarily the Rooney Rule, because that's the end result, right? The best way is starting you sort of start out in college, working with the college coaches and starting up that way. So I want to know, how do you think about that in that sort of way? Do you think that's a good idea? Because that's how most coaches start, actually.
Yeah, in regards to diversity and inclusion in the NFL, actually, I watched a video recently. A buddy of mine posted on Facebook. It was a very interesting video. I shared it to my Facebook page. If anyone listening wants to go check it out, it's basically talking about how in the AP poll, the top 25 schools, 24 of them have white head coaches, with only one African American coach in a predominantly African American dominated sport. So what you see there is there's not representation of minorities on upper levels. Now, I don't think, having a requirement to interview certain candidates of different backgrounds works. I don't think that kind of stuff works because it's checking a box.
I don't either.
It's not actually making a difference. What you need to do is kind of what you talked about, which is more of a system of empowerment. You have to empower people at the lower stages, as you said. You have to empower people to get involved in coaching. You got to empower people. And that's the thing is, because it is a white, and also I'm going to throw male in there, dominated field, you do not get necessarily the empowerment of females and the empowerment of minoritized groups in lower level positions. College student assistants. Every single college student assistant I worked with was white. All of our GAs were white. Granted, it's John Carroll University, and we have a bad reputation for diversity and inclusion.
You're not wrong about that.
87% of our campus is white.
It'd be 99 if we took away the football team. That was a joke.
Well,
that is probably true.
But no, actually, if you took, it's actually interesting because if you took John Carroll athletics and set them aside from the overall student body, it's a fairly diverse group. We have, a decent number of Hispanics. We have a large number of African Americans and a decent proportion of Caucasians as well. But then if you go look at the overall student body, that's where the 87% comes from, and it's. So I'm working off that sample. But if you look at it, a lot of leading executives are white males. And it's about empowering people at lower levels and empowering them up to leadership positions.
Yeah.
When I was president of our student government, that was a big thing for me is, I'm not going to go out and, say that every student organization has to do this, and this for diversity and inclusion. What you do is you make diversity and inclusion a culture. It goes back to culture of excellence. You make diversity and inclusion a part of your culture to the point where it's not something we have to do. It's just something we do. Like, I appointed several people, and I'm not trying to give a subtle brag here. I appointed several people of minoritized backgrounds to university committees all across the board. In fact, every single person except for one person had some sort of background of being some sort of identity that was in the past minoritized or marginalized. And so I was proud of that because it's about putting them in those leadership positions so they can excel and move forward and get better and increase, basically what you're talking about, climb the ladder up and get into those leadership positions. And I think you need people who are teachers as coaches who look like the players that they're coaching, who are like the players, who have gone through similar struggles. Now, some of that could come from players turned to coaches.
Yeah.
You see that a decent amount where past players become coaches. But I think you're right in that we need to start creating a culture of empowerment and creating a culture of diversity and inclusion at the smallest level and work our way up. I think that's a really good point. I 100% agree with you.
We could get so much more in depth on that topic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Have to stop you. But before we end the show, I do have to ask you this quick question. Who do you have winning the 2 championship games?
I have the Minnesota Vikings playing in their home field in the Super Bowl against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And who wins?
Who wins? I would give Minnesota the edge. They have a better overall defense, and they'll be playing at home, which is just another level of comfort, and they won't have to travel. Like, Jacksonville has to travel all the way up to Minnesota for that game. Minnesota doesn't have to move.
That would be a ratings disaster. That might hurt the ratings more than the supposed anthem protests. That would be awful. That'd be NFL death for Case Keenum and Blake Bortles.
I think you would see...
That might... Remember the LSU-Alabama game that was like 6-9?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want that in the Super Bowl.
The thing is, it goes back to defense wins playoff games. I'm a firm believer in offense wins regular season.
I will tell you this. Everybody loves defense. I love defense, but people usually don't like defense when it's their team's defense. People don't like it when it's the other team's defense.
Absolutely. But I think you're going to see a defensive struggle. The best defenses go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the Patriots don't have the defense to keep up with whoever they meet in the NFC. That's for sure. And I don't know if they'll have defense to keep up with Leonard Fournette.
Ben, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Okay, thank you
Appreciate
very much, man. Absolutely.
And you just listened to episode 29 of my podcast, Barber Shop Sports Talk. Again, I want to thank Ben Goodman for coming on the show. Love his takes on football. Always interesting. He's a man of many talents, as you can all obviously see. I want to thank Gavin Martin for doing the editing as always. And that's it for this episode of Barber Shop Sports Talk.
Waiting outside on a porch. I ain't trying to do this anymore.